Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim Chakadash. The belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shimon. This week's topic is going to be entitled, except there's a 2/3, or I don't know. The title is still a working title. I'll come up with something lower than after I do this lesson. But it's pretty much going into a land back of a lesson that was sent to me, wherein I guess some guy from London, he was kicked out from us. And he was doing some lesson talking about, like, you know, you could never, the way this truth is set up, you can't truly make friends with people, because you make friends with a guy, y'all get really close, y'all share y'all personal information, y'all get really tight over the years, he falls out, now you can't talk to him, and he has a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? So he has a problem with the fact that if an individual fall out, though he was tight with him, in his mind it's like, why can't I still be cool with him? You know what I mean? Which, you know, the guy's totally going off. The brother that rebuked him was on point with his lesson, and I'm just laying back and off that, you know. First of all, this is the book of Proverbs chapter 4 verse 7. It says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy gettings get understanding. So there's an understanding as to why the scriptures tell us to separate ourselves from individuals, that they might go back into the world, or they might pick up a wayward doctrine. They're pretty much giving all the red flags that you should depart from them, right? There's many signs about that. And there's examples in the scriptures wherein somebody was cool, tight with you, and they went back in the world, but the men in the Lord position was like, oh, fuck that guy, you know, give him, let Satan deal with him. This is the book of 1 Timothy chapter 1 and 18. It says, this charge I commit unto thee, son Timothy, according to the prophecies which went before on thee, that thou by them mightest war a good warfare, holding faith and a good conscience. So the whole thing is, you got to hold this faith, you got to maintain it. Okay, this is not a in and out thing. You got to maintain this thing. It says, which some having put away concerning faith have made shipwreck. So there's some that had the faith, and now they're shipwrecked without the faith, right? So they once had it, they don't have it, right? But here's what the Apostle Paul is going to do. He's going to give some examples. 20, of whom is Hymenaeus and Alexander. Just 2 examples of many. Now, what was the Apostle Paul's reaction to this? He says, whom I delivered unto Satan, that they may learn not to blaspheme, right? So he wasn't like, well, you know, we've been on many journeys together. We you know, we opened up here, we opened up in Italy, and then we opened up over here in Jerusalem, then we opened it. He wasn't going into the history of how all that type of shit they did, man. All right, he was just like, they blasphemed against the scriptures and delivered them over to Satan. And that might sound, I get it. To the uninitiated, that might sound cruel, like, oh, you knew a guy for 10 years, you cut him off cold. But we always go into these different animals symbolizing different levels of wisdom, right? You know, the monkey, the parrot, the toad, and, you know, you work your way up to the owl, and the highest is the dragon. And we always say that, or a serpent. And we always say about, the apostles always bringing out, what really separates the dragons' levels of wisdom from these other different things is they understand cruelty. All right, they understand there's wisdom in cruelty. And a part of this truth is you're gonna have to understand, like, how to be cold. Like, for example, You come in this thing, you realize you can't really kick it with your family member as much as you would, because it's just, you're a completely changed, different person, you know. And a part of the wisdom is you got to be cold. You know what I'm saying? And when you're cold, and when I say cold, I mean just coldly following what the scripture says. Fuck your feelings. All right, there's wisdom in that. All right, because your feelings could bring you to the dark side, man. You see, that's what that whole Star Wars shit was about. You know, Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader, all that, he got caught up in his feelings. That's how you fall to the dark side. Here it is, the scriptures is telling you, look, cut a guy cold off if he's offending the bodyhood. But your feelings are starting to kick in and say, but damn, man, you know, we had so much memories together, this, that, and the third. Well, that's in the past. You know, Yahweh Shem Yahushai is what have you done for me lately? That's his spirit. You know what I'm saying? And we got to be like the Lord. So, understanding that you have to understand that that's something that's gonna come with it. All right. If a guy falls back into the world or gets snatched up into another doctrine, or the spirit is just not dealing with him, who are you to come in and say, I'm gonna step in and save this guy because we were cool and shit? That's a foolish decision making. And I've seen examples of that it doesn't work. It never works. Okay? It never works that way. It never works wherein I'm gonna go dive in, let me go save him and shit, dive in the pool, go save him. Nah, what happens is when a guy does that, they end up both drowning. That's much more different than an individual that was cast out and given time to prove himself and come back in. See, so that could happen. A guy could get put out, or a guy could be going off, get suspended, get put out, whatever, and on his own bondage with Yahweh Shem Yahushai, he comes back into the fold. Okay, you don't gotta go no deep diving and shit like that, because that typically makes shit worse. And plus, I mean, Amos 3:3, can two walk together unless they be agreed? So if that individual is not agreeing with the scriptures, what company? It doesn't make any sense unless you're in your feelings. You see, the book of Galatians chapter 5 verse 9, it says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. And what that means is a little wickedness can make everybody wicked. You know, so a little difference in the doctrine here, a little difference in the doctrine there could fuck everything up. So immediately what you have to do is get rid of that. Cut that out. Nope. Gotta go. You see? So a little leaveneth the whole lump, man. All right. So you don't want to get caught up in any BS, any bullshit. All right. I mean, look, you hope and pray that's not your lot. None of us want that lot, but we have examples in the scriptures and examples in our time in the truth of what happens when an individual goes that route. You know, nah, man, I don't think the apostles was right about it, man. I know this guy. I'm gonna go teach you. It never works out, bro. Never works out. You see? But we see examples where a guy was put out, and if he was put out wrongly, let him suffer that on his own and come back in the fold. That works out. So this dude coming up on there talking about there's an issue with that because you can't make true friends and all this type of shit. I don't know what that's in the scriptures. That's just coming out of his vain heart, his feelings. Matthew 5:29 says, and this is Yahweh Shah speaking, and if that right eye offend thee, pluck it out. Now, this is not literally talking about plucking out your right eye, Marcus Houston. That nigga actually did that. Yeah, this is how come you gotta have teachers, man, to make you understand these scriptures. That's how we open up in Proverbs 4:7. When it's talking about your right eye offending you, this thing is a body. All right, this thing of ours is a body. You see? So, and we all represent members of that body. And if there's a piece of your body that's offending you, you got to get rid of it. That's what it's talking about. Not taking out your actual eye and shit like that. People are ridiculous, you know. But then again, you know, it's because you didn't know. I think back in the world, I thought that was the actual thing. I didn't have the proper interpretation. So, you know, that's how come the Lord set up teachers. And that's the understanding on that. That's how come when we say, look, if a guy is going off and shit and put out, avoid him, Okay, that's coming through the Spirit of the Lord. The scriptures are telling us, and we follow in the scriptures. It says, and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. Exactly. So it's better you get rid of that one individual, all right, with his wayward doctrine or bullshit or whatever he's on, than to have that contaminate the entire church, you know, which is logical, you know. Because if a guy get put out for teaching some madness, right, and you still cool with him, guess what he's going to try to do? He's going to still try to push that madness onto you. That's typically what happens, you know. And either you're going to say fuck that and eventually just separate organically, or y'all going to lash together. Prime example, that dude in Mississippi, you know, which I don't know what the hell they still doing. But what was his leaven? Yo, 3 shows, we shouldn't be doing 3 shows a week. We should be doing shows when we in the Spirit. Meaning, you know, let's cut the bullshit. Dude was just lazy, not disciplined, you know. Let me do shows when I feel like. He got in his feelings about it because guys are saying, look, you're not doing enough shows. And then that jumped into another thing, which became another thing. Next thing you know, they're out there somewhere. And I guess when you do shows when you feel like, you can put up shows every 6 months or a year or whatever. You see? But that guy in London would still want to be cool with somebody like that. You don't want to do that, bro. 1 Corinthians 1:10 tells us that we have to be all of one mind. Okay, concerning these scriptures. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So the spiritual demon Satan is looking for a weak individual and trying to pounce, boom, eat. Now look at this now, right? You know how you have the crocodiles, crocodiles or alligators, I'm not too sure, I believe it's alligators in the waters, and then you have like the wildebeest or whatever animal that's trying to get across the river. Now they know, the alligators know, the wildebeest know, or whether it be zebras, they know that alligator is gonna get somebody. It's just gonna happen. That alligator is gonna get, it's a bunch of them in the water, they're gonna get somebody. Now check this out. When that alligator grabs onto a zebra and rips his face apart or rips his ribs out, do you see other zebras running back? Do you see one zebra ever run back and try to kick the alligator in the face? No. You know? You don't see an antelope try to run back and fight a lion once it's been taken by another antelope. I mean, once that antelope has been taken. Okay? They're just trying to get across the river or get to their destination. They understand that this thing is going to come with casualties. And it's the same thing in this truth. This truth is going to come with casualties. Individuals that were cool, you don't got really shit, nothing bad to say about them, nothing. They was cool dudes, but now they're not cool with the Lord. Just because they was cool with us, cool with you, for some reason, they wasn't cool with the Lord. Meaning, Yahweh Shem Yahushua said, look, he's going to lose faith. He's going to get caught up in this. He's going to get caught up in that. And for whatever reason that might be, all right, you got to accept it and say, well, look, that's the will of the Lord. You know? Because it's not up to us who makes it or not. All right? It's not up to us to say, you know, Lord, that person deserves a seat on the chariots because he held me down. And it's up to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. We can't even save ourselves. You know, we trying to work out our own salvation, you know, let alone taking on another man's salvation. We can't do none of that. You know, so even if an individual was cool, for some reason, they not cool with the Lord said, look, I don't want them amongst the body. Just got to accept it. Just got to accept the casualties. Just like those animals out there in the wild accept that there's casualties out there, man. You know, once that lion gets that person, is done, or that antelope is done, or that alligator gets that zebra or wildebeest, it's over. You know, peradventure, sometimes they kind of escape and shit and get away, but you would hope that happens for an individual that you were tight with. But you have to understand that shit might not play out that way. You know, so This is some of the harsh realities of the truth, all right, that we get taught about firsthand. We see it in the scriptures, and we gotta follow that. You know, don't take that dude's advice of there's something wrong with cutting people off, that fall out, or whatever. That guy is not going by the scriptures. Anybody teaching that is not going by the scriptures. You should avoid that individual, you know? And people typically say shit like that when they get put out. That's what's so ironic about it. Like, all these different changes in doctrines, mind you, you was teaching what I was teaching for years, so however long you in the truth. But the moment you get put out, there's something wrong with it now. And it's like the same pattern, you know? But, you know, in closing, that's that. Just gotta, you know, the scriptures tell us to obey is better than sacrifice, man. So obey what the scriptures say. Don't get in your feelings, you know? With that, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the whole for the elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.